Hey friends, welcome back to Midweek. We are so glad that you're joining with us as we continue through our series, Echoes of Remembrance. Now, tonight's episode is going to be a bit spicy because I want to start off with a huge debate. In fact, this debate's been around for quite some time, and each year it seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm curious of where you land on it, because by the end of tonight, by the end of this week, I want to know what the real answer is. And that's this: when do you start singing Christmas music? Is it before Thanksgiving? Is it after Thanksgiving? Are you the type of person who doesn't care? Are you the type of person that sings it when you want to? Here's my answer. For me, I start about mid-October and I go all the way through the end of the year. And I've actually done a little psycho-evaluation on why I do this. And here's what I think is going on for me personally, and maybe you're the same way, is when you go to any store from about mid-October to the end of the year, about mid-October is when all the stores start putting out their Christmas merchandise. You've got the Christmas trees, all the decor out there, all the apparel, all the ugly sweaters, everything that's programming your mind to remember the Christmas season. They want to get you into the holiday spirit so that you will go and buy their stuff before the holiday gets here. And Christmas is just associated with Christmas music. They just kind of go like peanut butter and jelly. And so when I see all that stuff, I'm hook, line, and sunk right into it. And I just get into the Christmas spirit hard. I start humming the carols, and that's just who I am. And I need to know if I'm driving people like you crazy. So please put your answer in the comment section. Let us know where you at on the Christmas debate. But I bring this up because music in general just does something to us, doesn't it? I mean, it just transports you into a different place, whether it's a memory, whether it's with a person, maybe it's a place that you visited. And certain songs just have that transforming power where it just takes you and teleports you instantly. You could be sitting in your car listening to music. You could be watching TV and a commercial comes on with that clip of a song that does that to you. For me, it could be a worship song. I remember when Grace was little, she's my oldest, and as she was progressing through learning how to speak, we would be in the back seat, and I'm driving down the road, and she would just be singing at the top of her lungs whatever songs she thinks she could sing. And a lot of them came from our worship team, because she'd come to church and start hearing these songs repeat, or I'd be practicing them, and she'd hear us play it. And so these songs got stuck in her head. The problem is she couldn't really say them. So certain words she didn't know how to say. And when she would just belt out those choruses with just whatever words sounded right, it would just make me laugh so much. Even to this day, now that 10 years have passed by, even to this very day, when I hear that worship song, or maybe we play it on the stage, I am always instantly transported back to that memory of her being in the back seat in her car seat, just singing at the top of her lungs to a God who enjoys hearing her. Now, I had no idea what she says, but the words that she blends and the mixes, I'm always teleported back to that moment. That's the power of songs. And so the echo that we're going to hear tonight, remember this Echo of Remembrance series is us looking at the New Testament and watching where Jesus and his disciples are quoting things from the Old Testament to give us a different perspective of what's coming. And so what we're going to look at today comes from Matthew chapter 12. And Jesus is doing this by a parable, but let me explain this a little bit further. It starts all the way back in Mark chapter 11, starting with verse 27. Let me just read this. It says, "And they came again to Jerusalem, and as he was walking in the temple, the chief priests and the scribes and the elders came to him and said to him, 'By what authority are you doing these things? Who gave you this authority to do them?' And Jesus said to them, 'I will ask you one question. Answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. Was baptism of John from heaven or from man?'" So what's happening is you have all these religious leaders, these experts, these people who know religion better than anybody, and they come to Jesus, and they're already kind of annoyed with him because Jesus' ministry is really starting to move, and it's growing. People are liking Jesus, but the message that he preaches is kind of controversial to the message that these religious leaders are speaking. And so Jesus is coming, and he just starts talking, but they are challenging him. "By what authority do you come and speak these things?" Well, Jesus checkmates them, as you could see here, and he goes through it, and then he asks about John's baptism. When John's baptizing people, did that come from heaven, or did that come from man? And they recognize this as a trap because they all kind of huddle together, and they go, well, if we answer it this way, they're going to be upset with us, and if we answer it this way, they're going to be upset with us. See, Jesus just put them and a checkmate. And they go, well, we don't really know the answer. So then Jesus says, if you look at the end of the chapter, he says, well, neither will I tell you what authority I do these things. So Jesus is like, hey, if you want to be silent on your answer, I'll be silent on mine. And then he gives this parable. I want to read this. This comes from chapter 12, and it says this, and he began to speak to them in parables. So we know the audience here. It's these religious leaders, these experts, right? And maybe his disciples and some other people in the crowd, but this is his target audience. So he begins to speak to them. He says, a man planted a vineyard and put a fence around it and dug a pit for the winepress and built a tower and leased it to the tenants and went into another country. And when the season came, he sent a servant to the tenants to get from them some of the fruit from the vineyard. And they took him and they beat him and they sent him away empty-handed. Again, he sent them to another servant, and they struck him on the head and treated him shamefully. And then he sent another, and him they killed. And so with so many others they beat, and some of them they killed. He had still one more, a beloved son. Finally, he sent him to them, saying, this will respect my son. They will respect my son. But those tenants said to one another, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours. And they took him and killed him and threw him out of the vineyard. What will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the tenants and give the vineyards to others. Have you not read the scriptures? Now here's the echo, okay? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our sight. So what's happening here? Let me kind of summarize this again. So Jesus is talking in parables, which means that this is a story that Jesus is trying to show us what heaven is like. It's got one central meaning that's really talking about the kingdom of God. And so he's using this in a story format to help people understand what's happening. And he says, let's say that there's a farmer out here who owns this beautiful winery, right? Grapes everywhere. And all of a sudden he goes off into another country. He can't be here to manage everything. So he leaves this in charge to all of these people who kind of rent it out, and they manage the property well. Well, Jesus is the Son, of course, but God the Father, he's the owner. And he starts to send people to go and do some things over here. But the people who are there to take care of it, who should be the ones kind of paving the way, are beating these people, killing them. And we don't know how many, but Jesus in this parable says it's multiples. I mean, just time after time after time. Look at verse 4. Again, he sent them to another, and they struck him on the head and treated him shameful. And he sent another, and he sent another, and they killed him, and they sent another. And Jesus is really hitting this hard because of this this psalm that he quotes down here. This Old Testament echo, the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Where is that found? Well, that's all the way back. I already gave you the answer in Psalm 1:18. And here's what this says. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This is the Lord's doing. It is a marvelous in our eyes. This is a word for word echo. I mean, you can see it played out there. But what is this Psalm 18 talking about? Well, this is where it actually gets pretty interesting, because this psalm is in a blend of Psalm 113 to Psalm 118. And all of these are like war cry victory songs. Now, if you've never read the book of Psalms, it is a collection of songbooks. There's 5 collections here that we have, and all of them have different stories, different poetry, different sort of stanzas, if you will. And so they're all written very meticulously and compiled in a very different section. But 113 to 118 is called like the victory war cry psalms. This is typically what they would sing at festivals like Passover and Hanukkah to kind of remind the people that there is victory that God is bringing to them. And so they often would sing these songs after a huge victory from maybe being freed from exile, maybe being from bondage to freedom, whatever it may be. This was a national kind of celebration. And so I find it kind of awesome that as Jesus is telling these religious leaders about this quote that comes from a victory, not only is he telling them, you need to be careful because you have been the ones that God has entrusted with this property, the kingdom of God. And look at what you're doing with it. Look at how you're messing this up. Look at how you're killing everybody and beating everybody who is trying to come and enhance the kingdom. Yet, this kingdom is going to be spread out to everybody to get. Now, they picked up on this. If you continue reading in Mark, you're going to see that they pick up that Jesus is talking about them. And the people, if they would try to arrest Jesus and stone him, the people would be outraged and there would be a riot on their hands. And so they decide to kind of dip out. But if you listen to this echo, what Jesus is doing is reminding everyone who hears him that there is going to be victory in Jesus. Because what this psalm teaches later on, as they've discovered, is this is a prophetic Messiah prophecy. And that means it's talking about Jesus coming. Now, they didn't know it at the time of the writing, but these writers looking back, every Jewish listener would have heard when Jesus said this, that this is a prophecy of Messiahship. There is one coming who is going to free us. Now, whatever song you listen to during the holiday season, whatever you do to prep yourself for Thanksgiving, maybe we need to look at this and remember that there is victory in Jesus. Regardless of what you feel, maybe there's times where you get transported back to a bad moment, right? Maybe this year at the dinner table, you're going to have one more empty seat because of death, because of illness, because of relationship issues, whatever it may be. You're just kind of reminded sometimes that life can be difficult, but let the victory of Jesus remind you that there is hope. That's what the Christmas season is all about in the first place, that there is hope. Let your song this week be a victory song in remembrance and the echoes of the past. I think Jesus is telling the people here, it's okay. Victory is on its way. And it's true for you too. Friends, have a great week. We'll see you next time.